Hey guys, welcome back to Release the Craftin. Priscilla here with another little art and chat video for you guys. I'm still kind of going off of the sort of endorphin high, I guess we'll say. Like, I got some serotonin boost from the video that I did that was totally not clickbait, but it was totally clickbait. But I wanted to have that conversation, so I clickbaited the conversation. I made it clickbaity so I could have that conversation. I'm really enjoying the responses I'm getting on that video. You guys have a lot of like really interesting insight and feedback and things like that that I'm just super like enjoying. Like, I'm really just enjoying the dialogue that's happening over there. So if you haven't watched that video, check it out already. It is the video titled "I Have Failed as an Artist." And I just really like enjoyed that conversation. So I thought I would like continue that thought tree that, you know, I have been on, this sort of realm of thought I've been dwelling in with you guys, because I want to continue this conversation, and I really just sort of enjoy talking about it and sharing my experience as an artist with other artists. And the fun thing about it is that like the people who follow me aren't all junk journal mixed media people. They're also like painters, there's photographers, you know, there's a bunch of people from different mediums who can all sort of relate to these ideas, I think. And so that's what makes this like a really interesting, like well-rounded conversation to have, and I'm just really enjoying it. I'm absolutely enjoying it. So I thought I would talk about sort of my like default de facto like mantra now when it comes to art and art pieces and the things that I'm working on in general. I have found that in the realm of like paper craft and mixed media especially, this mantra comes in really super handy. And I understand that like in other forms of art media, like there isn't this might not be the best solution. Like, you just have to start over. And those other things, like there's no salvaging an issue. Like, if you take a bad picture, you can't just be like, well, I'll keep changing the filters until I get a better, and it doesn't work. Take a picture again, right? Like, you can only do so much with like Photoshop after the fact to salvage a bad photo, outside of just taking the photo again. And if, you know, the opportunity isn't there to take that photo, then like, c'est la vie. But I understand that that's the case, but like in this realm of the world specifically, especially like in handcrafted art, I think this idea applies. It applies a lot in mixed media and in paper crafting, because paper is a super forgiving medium. But the thing that I tell myself when I'm like, oh, this might be a little bit ugly, or like, I'm not really sure about this, or, oh shit, I messed this up, is to just trust the process. Trust the process, right? Like, you hear people say that, you hear artists say that. They're like, I know it looks like messy right now, but like, trust the process. I'm sure that you're watching this video and you're like, what the fuck, Priscilla? But trust the process, because at the end of this video, I guarantee you, what I walked away with here is something I am very happy with. I love the look of it, even though the entire time I was making it, I was like, what? People are gonna think you're like a phony when you show them this video of your shitty art, because this looks so bad. But like, I have been like in this patina rust color like color palette in my head that has been living rent free for a while, so I'm trying to like work that out and get it out of my system. I still want to dabble in it, so this was not enough of an exercise, but I was like, if I make this like little canvas paper set of mixed media like goodness in this color palette, I will get past this point and be able to move on to a different color palette. That was not the case. I just want more now, so like clearly I needed to go bigger. But every step of the way, every time I added something to this, I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. But I had to keep telling myself, just trust the process, because especially in mixed media, you can always just add more layers, right? More layers and more layers until you hit something that you're happy with. Will it look like the original thing you started out with? No, you're never gonna get back to that. And that's kind of like part of the thing, I think, is that maybe when you first start like crafting something or working on like a composition, you're like, oh, I kind of like how this looks, I really like this. You add one thing to it, and then you're like, the fuck is this? I've ruined this forever. It is ruined. And then you stop there. And I'm telling you, just trust the process, because something in your little artsy brain told you like it needed this element, and you added that. And that's literally how I felt about these like little dots that we're looking at right now. Like I was like, this needs dots, it needs a different texture, it needs something else. I added them and I was like, oh, I fucking hate this. I loved everything that was underneath this, but this in particular I hate. As a spoiler like alert, guys, I don't actually hate these dots. I love the dots. I think they came in together really clutch at the end. Keep watching. You will see. We're going to trust the process, right? Because as you're working, if you trust like that intuitive part of your brain that's telling you like, well, try this and put this down there. Sure, sometimes that like little intuitive part of your brain is like a terrible little trash goblin that's like, what if you just threw garbage up there? And you're like, yeah, what if I did? And then you end up with garbage at the end. But like we talked about in the last one, failure isn't like endgame. You learned garbage does not go on here. It in fact does not look good no matter how much I throw it up there. But sometimes that little trash goblin, sometimes that little intuitive voice is actually right. And it's like, you know, try this out. Give this a shot. You're going to like this. I also hated this yellow, but I was like, you use yellow, so keep tying that in. I love it at the end. I love it at the end, I promise. But yeah, like, sometimes you just have to give that little intuitive voice, like, some leeway to try stuff out, and then you can keep going, adding more things until you like what you end up with at the end. And sometimes you're not going to love everything you make, right? Like, that's just, like, a given. You're not going to love everything you make. We talked about it last time. Like, you're your own worst critic, so you're probably going to be like, well, I really had my mind, like, set on one thing, and what I have produced is another thing. And the other thing is awful because it's not the thing that I thought I was going to make. You can always go back to that original idea, but every step of the way led you to that final product at the end. And while it might not be what you started out with, it might even be better than what you meant, right? So like trusting that little intuitive artist's voice will get you to a satisfying conclusion. Even if it's just like, this isn't what I wanted, but I did learn a lot while making this. Because that's kind of the goal at the end of the day. If we either produce like a final finished composition, finished piece that we're really happy with, or we produce something that we learned from. Because if you can learn from it, you're one step closer to getting to the thing that you wanted to do in the first place. Also, just as a pro tip, because I'm watching myself do this, I had no patience to let anything dry for the sake of this video. I just wanted to get this done. Everything would look so much better if I didn't roast it with my heat tool. Just throwing that out there. Yeah, so like I have to tell myself as I'm crafting to trust the process, especially when like I'm putting together like journal pockets or ephemera and then I tear something or I over like what's that called, burnish it, like when I'm like creasing, and what's that called, I don't know the words for things anymore, when I score something and I end up like super scoring it and it ends up just making holes, and I'm like, oh shit, you ruined this, like you ruined this piece of paper and it's the last kind that you have and you need it for this specific project. I have to be like, you know, just trust the process. You're gonna figure this out, you're gonna work around it. It allows me to sort of give myself the grace to like have some wiggle room and not have to like be perfect, but also like it tells my brain like, hey, it's gonna be okay. You don't have to like catastrophize this situation, and there's a solution in here somewhere to redeem it, whether that's like grabbing a sticker to cover up the big giant hole I just made, or, you know, thinking of like a new workaround, collaging something on top of it. And I want to say like 9 times out of 10, when I'm like trying to problem solve the mistakes that I make or the errors that I make, like while painting, or things that I'm not happy about, that problem solving, I end up liking what I did to problem solve more than I liked just the original standalone piece. And I walked away with like a little new kernel, like a little nugget of info that I could take with me. And I know what you guys are thinking, this is very busy intentionally because I'm going to cut it up. It's trust the process, guys. Trust it. It will come through at the end, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I just was thinking like maybe it's something you've heard, but you need to hear, if that makes any sense, in order to apply it to your actual art practice, especially if you're the kind of person who's like dabbling in a little bit of everything, and you know, you try something, it doesn't work out, so you toss that to the side and you keep going on and you try something else. Like, just go back, you were onto something there. I promise you, you were. It might not seem like it, but you definitely were onto something, and it's salvageable. And if it's not salvageable, it's at least redemptive in the fact that you can learn something from it. And, you know, sometimes the things that, like, I mess up on, like art pieces or paintings that don't work out, I'll revisit just to do more experimentation on, because I already know, like, hey, I'm not really happy with this, so I'm okay if this gets more messed up, and I can continue to mess it up while I grow and learn and develop my skills as an artist. So yeah, maybe that will lead to trusting the process being like an artsy mantra for you, especially if you're feeling frustrated. Because I know what art rage is like, you guys. Like, I absolutely know what it's like, especially if you're working on like a really big, important thing and you just want to like put your foot through your metaphorical or sometimes literal canvas because you messed it up. I understand art rage, and that just comes from that like feeling of inadequacy, but that also comes from like that deep need to strive for perfection, and you're not perfect. Nobody is, and that's okay. Like, that's kind of the thing. And so you can tell yourself to either continue to trust the process, try to figure out how to salvage it, you know, see if you can tap into your intuitive self and like come up with something better, or you know, if you can look at what you did and then recreate that in a way that you're happy with without making that misstep that you made while on the way. Like, that there's something to be learned, something to be gained from there. But yeah. So as you can see, like, I have now made a capital mess on this thing. Also, I realized as I started this that I only use like freaking cardstock because I'm a weirdo. I should have used like a heavier paper, like a watercolor paper, so that it would take all these mediums, and that's probably why I struggled so much with like colors on this. But I do really love how this came out, because I used like a color shifting orange that has like a pink shift over the top of it, and it just gave everything like a really cool thing. So like, here's the final look through. Also, as an aside, I have launched my Patreon, so this will be the freebie for July Patreons at the $5 tier. And they're going to get a copy of these cool little mixed media stamps because I love them and I wanted to share them with you guys. So, shout out to Patreon. But that's it for me, guys. I'm going to let you guys go. It's going to be all for today. And I will catch you guys all in the next one. Until then, I appreciate your faces if you made it to the end of the video. Happy crafting. Bye.